Good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Kathy Hester. Today we're going to be doing the Tex-Mex fajita and taco class. So if that's where you're supposed to be, you're in the right place. And I see a lot of you are already here, so let me check this out a little bit. Oh, Sherry Ward is here. Excellent. So glad to see you. And Marilyn and Linda and Joanne. A lot of my favorite people are here today, so thank you for that. So we're going to make a few things. I sent you out extra emails today. So those of you who are used to just showing up, you probably got some extra ones. I sent out an email again today, so that's why you got an extra email in case somebody bought it late. There you go, so that they will know what's going on. Oh, Colleen is here, and Anne. Yay, we're all here. That's awesome. So today what we're going to do, as you saw in the email, the recipes were not ready for the live class, partly because I'm going to tweak them. So one of the things I like to do, and if you're watching the replay, they're totally there. So don't panic. I'm going to be tweaking some things as I go along so that they can be a little bit fresher and just right. So we're going to make, I did some research into Tex-Mex cuisine, if you will, when you guys asked for some Tex-Mex classes. This is called Tex-Mex Class 1 because there's going to be more. So the more I read about Tex-Mex, the deeper I went, and I was like, wow, there's a lot more to this than I thought. And then I also started planning some Mexican cuisine classes, kind of like compare and contrast, like we were in school. But today we're going to make pinto beans, refried pinto beans, which is a staple of Tex-Mex food. We are going to make an awesome queso. We are going to, and everything is oil-free as is. Again, if you want to saute your onions with oil, you're welcome to. That's totally up to you. The only thing that may cause an allergen problem is walnuts. We're going to do walnut taco meat. So if you can't have walnuts, either because you're allergic to nuts or you just can't have nuts in your diet for whatever reason, I'm going to give you two alternatives. You'll have to do a tiny bit more work, but it will still be just as delicious. So that's what's important to know. For our queso, too, we're going to make it kind of Torchy's style. So Torchy's is a restaurant in Texas, and they make their queso, and then they put like this rojo sauce on it, and guacamole, and stuffs. It's like super over the top. So we're going to do that. So we'll make a rojo sauce. We are going to also make a salsa, because I thought, you know, it's nice that when we have jarred sauces and things, but if you're truly SOS or SOFA's free, it's really difficult to find a salsa that doesn't have any salt, sugar, or oil. It's not impossible, but it's hard. But you know what? It's really easy, making your own at home. Like ridiculously easy. I'm actually going to use a bunch of canned stuff from my pantry, some cilantro. We'll talk about other additions we could put in there, and we'll make some salsa. So it's going to be a big spread, but it's going to be all the recipes. Oh, I did not say we were making air fryer fajitas. I was going to make sheet pan fajitas, and then I thought, you know, my air fryer baskets in the air fryer will work just fine. You could totally make these as sheet pan fajitas. We could do sheet pans in the Breville too, but this is just going to be easier. Oh, Jackie's here, and the weather is beautiful in Texas. It's kind of, can you guys see? It's a little bit like it's going to rain, maybe? We'll see if we get the whole, it's dark, it's sunny, it's dark going on in this class or not. If it is, please forgive, as I have to correct cameras. Let's see, and Diane is here. Yay, excellent. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to make some refried beans. They're going to start off being real similar to my ancho beans. And I may add some extra stuff in there. We're definitely going to talk about how you can make yours different, for sure. So we're going to start off, I'm going to go ahead in my Instant Pot and go to saute. And I'll take you to the overhead camera. Move this here. I have the garlic smusher out today. So I'm going to put just a little bit of water in here. Okay. And about a cup of onions. It's up to you. If I was not going to smash or puree these, I might use less. The onion and the onion matter is going to make it look a little lighter colored. And the reason that's cool is because Tex-Mex beans have a lot of fat in them. Ours don't. But this will kind of lighten up the color a little bit. And I think that can be kind of cool. So we're just going to be cooking those for a little bit. We are going to also, I had some leftover ancho and guajillo peppers, and we're going to throw those in. And that's going to give it a really nice, rich flavor. We're going to pull some spices that we're going to use. We're going to be using some of the same spices over and over again, but we're going to do it in a way that things still taste a little bit different. Liquid smoke. What else I got here? Do you guys ever have problems reading your own handwriting? Do you ever have problems with that? Because I do. I write like a crazy person. It's like the words can't get out of my head fast enough. That's why I prefer to type. That is also why sometimes I go, maybe I'll change that recipe. And you can too. Oh, and Marilyn said there was thunderstorms last night. She spent part of the night in the basement during a tornado warning. Is everybody okay, Marilyn? I hope so. But it's beautiful this morning. And Sherry says it's very gray here. It's supposed to rain. I think it's supposed to rain here too. And Jackie had storms yesterday. Wow. There's a lot of weather going on. And I know it takes a little while for the onions to cook. And with these, you could also, I was thinking with these beans, we could do something else. We could put roasted garlic. If we had a head of roasted garlic, we could put that in there. You could put roasted jalapenos. So what I would probably do is roast the jalapeno, then remove the seeds and stems, and then put that in there. So there's all kinds of things we could do. We could make like lime cilantro beans. With that, after the beans, after we smush them, then I would add in lime juice, lime zest, and cilantro, right? So these kind of pinto beans can be this base. And we could do roasted red peppers. We could do roasted tomatoes. We could put salsa verde. Just really about anything you wanted to do. And I really like using chilies as much as I can. And these guys, and we're going to look at some New Mexican chilies a little bit later. When you smell them, so these are just little pieces that have already had the seeds and stems removed. Nothing else happened to them. I think they were left over from a class, which is why I'm using these. So they need to be thrown in something. Well, you see them from overhead. So it's just some different chilies, different pieces. It doesn't matter that much if it's a bigger piece. We might tear that down a little bit because we're going to puree everything together or mash everything together depending on what you want. Diane says she writes like a doctor. And Marilyn says they're all fine, which is awesome. And Jackie's glad you're safe too. Okay, so those of you who may be new to my fancy dancy garlic smusher, we'll smush some garlic while guess who didn't press start? Me. I didn't press start. That's why the onions weren't cooking. And I was getting impatient. So just know, if it's ever happened to you, I can assure you it's happened to me. Okay, so we're going to get, I don't know, let's use a couple of cloves of garlic in here. I think let's use 3 big ones. The big ones are actually harder to use with the garlic smusher, but I'll show you. This little guy needs to pop out of there so I can get one of these guys. Okay. But you can slice it and still use it. set aside some of this garlic for later. And we'll get a little something for the garlic trash. I usually just go ahead and cut off these dry ends where something is growing out of it. And I find sometimes that makes it a little bit easier to get everything out. This is some brand new garlic I got this week from a delivery. There's a delivery service that I'm using that's local right now, in addition to using Misfits. And for those of you who don't know, Misfit Market, and I'll try and put a link in the class. Some people had issues during the summer with things getting delivered well last year from Misfit Market, but I've noticed they're using a local delivery service now, so I'm curious to see if that's going to keep happening. So Misfit Market is a delivery service for organic fruits and vegetables. And it's like $35 for a really big box of all organic food. Some of it is not perfect. Actually, most of it is not perfect. And some of it you're not going to really like every once in a while. But in general, it's the best organic food deal that I've found in my area. It's not all over the United States yet, but I suspect it's heading there. And I can hear that the onions are starting to cook now, which makes me feel much better. Let me stir these guys around a little bit. And we're just going to cook these till they get translucent. Then any spices that we have, we're going to go ahead and put them in when we put our garlic in. And that will kind of activate. There was some a piece of onion core and a piece of onion skin. Okay, awesome. Okay, so then, literally, so like this big giant clove, and actually you're probably going to see better from overhead. I thought you might be able to. So I'm just going to slice it so it's like smaller cloves. You can get away without doing it. See this small one, you're not going to need it. And then we're going to take this and rock it over the top. You see there? And that's it. I love this guy because it's just so easy to do. And if you use oil, you could have heated up a little bit of oil and added the onions once they're hot. If you are not using oil, you do not need to wait till it's hot to add the onions. And it's funny, I've had someone say, because you know I do this a lot, I had someone say on a YouTube video, you're not going to be able to use your Instant Pot if you keep doing that. Well, it's never hurt anything. This is made with really good stainless steel, so we're fine. So what are some of your favorite Tex-Mex dishes that you enjoy a lot? Because I would like to know. The thing I miss is flour tortillas because I can't have gluten. And we'll see if there's enough time, I'll make one. I've made a couple of batches. They're not super perfect yet, so we may move that to another Tex-Mex class. I made some using pumpkin from a can and cassava flour, and it worked pretty well, but I think I can improve on it. So we'll see. And Jackie, you were saying you have made gluten-free flour tortillas with cassava. I was Another thing I was thinking is maybe moving it to another class and actually making like rainbow tortillas. So we make it with spinach puree or kale puree, make it with maybe like red bell pepper puree, and get all the colors for all that fun. But there's definitely a little bit of getting the feel right, kind of like when we did the last sausage class, where we did the gluten-free sausages. I see we have new people. Hello, new people. Welcome. What we're doing right now is we're sauteing onions for the pinto beans. So I do highly recommend that you soak your pinto beans. And if you don't, we can quick soak them. And if we quick soak them, let me let you see the onions. We can either do that on the stove top by just bringing them to a boil in a lot of water, letting them sit for a few minutes, maybe 20 to 30, or we can do something similar in the Instant Pot, and your recipe packet will have that for you. So these are my beans, and I did a quick soak on the stove this morning. Oh, the onions are starting to smell really good. I'm going to put a little bit more water so they don't stick. See how they're starting to get translucent and soft, kind of nummy. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add in that garlic. And this is one of the reasons why I like this. I am going to go clean it in a minute, because if you don't clean it right away, it is kind of hard. See, it's unruly. Let me do that really quick, and then we'll come back with the spices in. A little bit more water, huh? Ah, and so Joanne says, I'm from New England and we didn't eat Tex-Mex all that often, but Italian I can make in my sleep. That's awesome. Okay. I'm resting easier now that the garlic peeler is clean. So I'm just going to put in some liquid smoke. I'm just using mesquite. I like it fairly heavy, so I'm probably using a half to a teaspoon. And then honestly, chances are good that I will add some more at the end. So if we don't get it perfect right now, that's okay. I'm also going to add a little bit of smoked paprika. I'm going to put in, let's go ahead and put in about a teaspoon. I want these guys to be real smoky, as if they had kind of lard in them, you know, or some. I don't know if lard is smoky the way fatback is, but let me put in the 1 teaspoon paprika in my notes. The better my notes are, the quicker you get your recipes. Oh, it smells like smoky goodness in here, you guys. It smells campfire-ish. Tex-Mex makes me think of somebody outside making beans over a fire. I don't know if that's real or not, but that's just what I think about. I'm going to go ahead and put these in just so they can kind of toast ever so slightly. Actually, a couple of those are bigger than I thought they were. Let me cut those up. It's always best not to reach into a pot like that. I kind of have hands of steel from cooking so much, but I would very much recommend that you don't do that. tastes very, very sad. And so all we're doing right now in this very second is just toasting them a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel on my Instant Pot so it stops cooking. Obviously, it's still hot, so it's still cooking. We're going to put in about 4 cups of water. And we're going to put in our pound of soaked beans, or quick soaked beans. And let me take a look at this and see if it needs any more water. I'm going to get some extra water in case it does. Always good to have extra water on the side. And another thing I'm going to do, actually I'll just finish this and then we'll do that. So what I'm checking right now, what is the amount of the added peppers? Probably 3 whole peppers. So it's probably 1 ancho. Actually, I think this one is 1 ancho and 1 guajillo. Because they were, but you could, the original recipe called for 2 of each that I'm basing this off of. So I just want to make sure everybody's under the water a little bit. So Diane, that's about how many peppers. So, and here's the thing, this is the beauty of it actually, is it's okay if it's a little bit different. If it's not exactly right. Because again, I have some dried ancho powder and some dried guajillo powder, and we can add that in too to kind of up that if it's not good enough. Me, I picked the amount I did because that's what I already had prepped in my pantry. So I just grabbed it. And that's often how I do my refried beans. Is I look around, if I had a half a can of green chilies in the fridge, throw it in. Got some roasted garlic, throw it in, right? We can do a whole bunch of different things. So we're going to cook this for about 15 minutes on high pressure. And I think, yeah, and Joanne's saying, so the smoked paprika I used was from Rancho Gordo Bean Club, and it is delicious. It does not have to be that fancy. It's okay if it's not, trust me. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start working on our soy curls. So, I'm trying to think. What did I do with the bag? In case you don't know what soy curls are, they are from Butler Foods in the Pacific Northwest. They are from non-GMO soybeans that have basically been cooked and extruded. So it looks like TVP, but it's a cleaner product than TVP is. But once we reconstitute it, it's going to look a lot like chicken. And I know a lot of you guys already use soy curls, and in fact, you're going to be getting a whole slew of soy curl recipes on the blog soon. I'm actually working on a whole bunch of soy curl recipes. So this is about 2 cups, or about half a bag. That's kind of where I always go. You can make larger amounts of this for sure, without even a second thought. Okay, actually, why am I? That's not as interesting. So I actually take my tea kettle, and that's what I'm going to do now. So my kettle, I'm just going to put it on. And so what I usually do with my soy curls is I'm putting the flavor on the outside. Other people will reconstitute with broth. So you can totally do that. There's not like Kathy's way or somebody else's way. You could do it with broth and put seasoning on the outside. This is just the way I do it. I hate pouring out broth. So that's the only reason I do it that way. Okay? And Diane, don't forget, you're going to get all these recipes written out too in your packet. Hopefully a couple of hours after the class. because I've got most of the things written down, so it shouldn't take me too long. So we're boiling that water. I've cut up about 2 bell peppers and half an onion. This was a giant onion, so it's about 2 cups of onions and 2 cups of bell pepper. So it's about 2 cups of each. What we're going to do is take some chili powder, onion, garlic, and like chili for the stew powder. And we're going to go ahead and put some really good flavors in there. Some cumin, chili for the stew powder, Mexican oregano, getting everything over here. And we can use some more smoked paprika too. And we can use some other things. So if we want these to be chicken, right, we could put some nutritional yeast in there too. So, and you could use salt or not salt. And we'll take care of that when we get everything reconstituted. So first we're going to reconstitute these, drain them, mix them, the spices in, mix the onions and peppers in, then we're going to air fry them. So that's the order that we're going to do this. I'm just getting everything kind of ready. Okay. Oh, here we go. You don't think my lapel mic is working? Can people hear me? If you can hear me, will you let me know? Because it shows that it's working on my stuff. Joanne? I guess I'll put a... And let's see. It does seem to be working. But I'm not hearing anything from you guys. Okay, Colleen hears me. Okay, good. Okay, good. I know there's a lull, but whenever I see I can't hear you, I was like, oh no, how long have I been talking? Yay. Oh, and Sheila's here too. Okay, great. Sorry, that's always my biggest fear is that I've been talking for 20 minutes about something and you're like, I heard none of that. When I'm walking away, I'm getting fainter. Oh, wait 1 second. Something's not quite right. Okay, something's not quite right then. Let me check this. Let me check my sound system. It may not be on. Is it okay when I'm walking away though? I'm wondering if it's using the right mic. Okay. Yeah, I think it's not using the right mic. Okay, that's in here. That's in here. Yep. Okay, this should be much better. Much, much better. Can you guys hear me better? It was my fault. No, it was my fault. It was using the wrong mic before. Okay. It wasn't plugged in properly. Sorry, there's a delay. Okay. All right. So now we're all mic'd up. Woohoo! You'll hear me when I'm walking away. So I have been talking to you when I turn my back and go and get things. Okay, great. Yeah, everything should be better now. So, woohoo! There's a lot of wires over there you don't see, and one of them was not where it was supposed to be. So today, this is my motto: do your best. But maybe we'll do a little bit better now. So you should be able to hear me just fine as I'm wandering around in the world right now. And I'm going to rinse off my strainer so that we can use that with the soy curls. I'm also going to get a couple other things ready. I love this guy. He looks so happy. So we'll do that. We'll also get, actually we won't need that. This is boiling now. So I just get it to where it's boiling. You don't have to have a special kettle for this. Really? And it's not going to take that long. Right? That's about enough. So you can do this, make yourself a cup of tea. A lot of times I take my smiley friend and I just press some of them down. So it's just going to take, I don't know, 5 minutes, if that. They're really thirsty. They're going to soak this up really well. You know what? I think I'm going to get a bigger bowl to mix everything in together. So that while these soak, we can go ahead and put the thinly sliced onions and peppers in here. Oop, look at that. Let me get that off of there. If there's any big pieces, we can cut them in half. If we left more of the top on, we can get that off. Now, Cheryl doesn't like onions or peppers fresh. She likes having her food cooked with them. So if your family is really going to eat a lot of these, you could do twice as much. So like I said, there's probably about 2 cups of each, but you could also put mushrooms in here. So if you didn't want to use soy curls, if you have a soy allergy or you just don't eat soy, you could quarter mushrooms. And I probably would quarter about 3 or 4 cups of them. I think when we get done with this, it's going to be about 3 or 4 cups of these. So see how quickly they reconstitute? And make sure if you're making one of my recipes for soy curls, especially if it's in the Instant Pot, that you read to see if you reconstitute them first or not. I do have some recipes, if I throw it in the Instant Pot, I just add extra water and just cook it in like that. Okay. So I'm going to take these back there. Well, I'll give them just a second more. Then I'm going to drain them. And then I'll show you how to try to get a little bit of the extra water out of there. So I'm just putting them in a big strainer first. And then I'm going to put it on top of this bowl so it'll catch this extra water. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to see how there's some extra water in there. We don't need them bone dry or anything, but I just want to get any excess water out. One of the reasons I really like the idea of Tex-Mex food too, and I didn't press start again. I think this might be one of those days for me. It's very exciting. So see how there's still some. We're not going to work ourselves to death on this one, right? But look at how much water came out. A lot. But this moisture that's on the soy curls right now is going to help us stick these spices to the rest of it. So to everything, really. Grab a spoon. Okay. All right. So now we're going to start putting on our spices, and I'm going to need to make notes of what I'm putting in. I'm going to go ahead and start off with 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. I'm going to do, half a teaspoon of onion. Well, actually, I'm not going to put any onion powder in there. No onion powder needed. I meant to grab the garlic. I'm going to put a half teaspoon of granulated garlic in there. And I'm going to sit it over So one of the things I'm doing is things that I use, I sit over to one side. Things that I'm going to use, I have over here. A, so I don't forget what I just put in. B, as I'm doing that, I'm like, it needs something. I can come back here, or I could go to my spice drawer. So it gives me some options to do. Okay, we're going to do chili for the stew powder. It's not a single chili. It has chili, it does have chili pepper in it. It's got like chili pepper, cumin powder, garlic powder, and oregano. And we're going to put about a ½ teaspoon of that in. I don't use it as often, but since we're just trying to start this up, we might add more of this, or we might add more single herbs and spices. And I'm going to get some extra chilies. I'm going to put a teaspoon. Actually, I need to do, let's see, half, none. Smoked paprika, I'm going to do 1. And I also like showing you guys this process so you can see how I'm trying to decide when things are right. So I'm starting off with this, and this may or may not be right. It may or may not be the best. We're going to do a little bit of cumin in there. I'm only going to do ½ teaspoon of cumin because we've got a little bit in there, and I don't want it to taste, you know, I don't like when things are too cuminy. Now, Mexican oregano I love. It's different than regular oregano in that it's a little more floral, closer to a marjoram, and has some lemony to it. So if you don't have Mexican oregano, but you have oregano and marjoram, use marjoram. If you only have Italian oregano, you could use half as much. But I think we're going to put a full-on teaspoon to start off with. And I love Mexican oregano. I love marjoram too, honestly. But it's the spices that are going to make this kind of super special. So let's take a smell. Definitely enough cumin in there. We also, if you use salt, you could use a plain salt substitute. If you're new to my classes, the plain salt substitute I make is 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of celery seed. Mix it up, keep it in a little jar like this, and you can season to taste. I'm probably going to put about a ½ teaspoon of salt in there. But again, you can use a salt substitute. You could also use an herbal salt substitute blend. Okay, let's go in with some guajillo chili powder. So what I've done, those chilies you saw earlier, I just dehydrated and ground in a spice grinder. So making your own chili powder is super, super, super easy. Yep. And Jackie's saying thick slices of portobello mushrooms work well too. Yeah, and I do get sometimes some that have summer squash in them. I'm funny about summer squash if it gets too cooked. I'm going to put a whole teaspoon of guajillo. And then I'm going to take this ancho and I'm going to smell it over. Should I do it? Should I not do it? The nose will tell me. I think no. It's not a like, oh, kind of feeling, but it's just like, let's see how this goes. So, all right, yeah. I'm going to mix this up. Then we're going to give it another smell and see if this is enough. We may need to still add some more in here, but see how it's still sticking just fine without oil. If yours was drier, let's say maybe you reconstituted your soy curls early or something like that, you could totally add some aquafaba to get things to stick too. And one of the reasons I don't get fajitas out at restaurants much, well, A, I live in North Carolina, so they're not as good as they are in Austin or Texas. But they are usually just plain vegetables. Okay. Now, know this. When we're smelling these flavors, some of these flavors, everything except for the marjoram is going to intensify a little bit as it cooks, right? Because that heat's going to activate those flavors. But I think I don't want any more cumin, so I don't want to use any chili powder. I think we could do another half teaspoon of garlic powder to make it a teaspoon. And like I said, you guys are going to get the finished recipe. But here's the thing, you may want to do it different. And to go through this process is really going to give you just what you want. So you might smell and go, oh, I wish it had some of this. So I'm going to put a whole other teaspoon of paprika because I like it smoky. If you don't like it smoky, then you could use regular paprika. So, and I'm going to do, let's see, did I put the guajillo in here? Let's do 1.5. Yeah, 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. I'm going to do another teaspoon of the guajillo. Because the reason I'm not using chili for the stew powder is, again, the cumin level is just fine. I don't need any more. And that's going to bring that flavor with it. I think I'm going to go ahead and even do another teaspoon of marjoram. Because this is kind of a big batch of food. And we want this to be extra flavorful because this is going to go on a tortilla, on our salad, on some rice, right? So this needs to be the flavor of whatever we're doing. Okay, let me mix it up again. I'll let you guys see what it looks like right now. And you know, Jackie, I do have a potato chili relleno recipe for the slow cooker. So chili rellenos are on the table. But it's not going to have this, if we do it baked, it's not going to have the same kind of coating. But chili rellenos is coming in one of the Tex-Mex classes. And see, I'm smelling it again. And you could even take, because this is not raw chicken, this is just vegetables. We can take, like, I won't gross out Cheryl, I'll get a green pepper. I think it needs more salt. So I'm going to up it to 1 teaspoon of salt total. It's got a nice chili flavor to it. We could give it something with a bite. We could put in some arbol chili. We could do cayenne, something like that. I'm making these for Cheryl, so they won't have any spiciness in it. Though, for a hot minute, no, that's the wrong one. Here we go. Too many. Yeah, I'm going to take some jalapeno powder. I'm going to do half a teaspoon to start off with. Because what I feel like is missing, it's got those darker tones that we're getting from the chili and the smoked paprika and the cumin. It's got a little bit of midway to high from the oregano. A little bit of lime juice will be good too. We could put it on now, or we could put it on at serving time. Okay. Come out of the way, little. This is one of my little savers from vitamins that I have. So I'm going to put about half a teaspoon. The jalapeno powder you can buy at the Hispanic market, or I just dehydrate chili peppers. And I take the seeds and the ribs out and then dehydrate them and grind them. So, and we are going to have a dehydrator class. I'm working on that too. So maybe one will be all about flavoring blends. And see, I bet when this started, it looked so plain and so boring. And now it looks like something, doesn't it? And you can take that seasoning off of here. Yeah. Ooh, got a little bite from the jalapeno now. I like that. Cheryl won't like it, but we'll get some vegan sour cream for her. So if you didn't have jalapeno powder, what I would say is maybe some lime. You could either do lime zest, you could squeeze lime on it. I have, and I'll show you, I have some little citrus packets. Actually, I have a lot of citrus packets that I got back at the bin store when they had them. So I have orange and lemon and grapefruit, and lime is in here somewhere too. And what's kind of cool is this is just dried juice. So I was thinking that might be something cool to do in the dehydrator class too, because it's not easy to always have citrus on hand. I think this should be like a quick weeknight meal, like, I don't feel like cooking. Let me just get some of these things going. Okay, so let me do it like this so I won't have to clean up so much. I'm going to spread these on to the air fryer racks. And these could also go on parchment paper on baking sheets. I think that's going to be about right. So I'm going to spread it out even-ish, right? No need to get too uptight about it. And I just did that so I don't have to wipe the counter off. And I can put 2 of these trays in the air fryer. Now, if you don't have a Breville, you could still put this in the air fryer. You just might only be able to put half of it at a time. And if you wanted to, you can also go in and get your spatula and get all this flavor goodness instead of washing it down the drain. See how I'm trying to get all that off? Cheryl makes fun of me, but we spent a lot of time making that seasoning blend just right. There's no need to give it to the garbage disposal or the septic tank or whatever. Okay, and I did a very bad job of evening these out, but that's okay. The one that's full, I'm putting up at the top, and the one that's not so full, I'm going to put at the bottom. And that way I probably won't have to switch them. Could also grab a little bit of this too. And so for the air fryer, I'm going to cook it on 400 for 5 minutes, as is a surprise to no one, because anytime I'm doing something, I like to start at 5 minutes, test it, and then see what's going on. Okay. If you're doing it in your oven, you could do it at 450. So that could be what you're looking for. Let's see if I have any questions. Oh, Mia's like, yay, dinner. I know, soy curl fajitas, walnut tacos, fancy nacho cheese, loaded. Thank you very much. And Joanne says she really loves the marjoram in place of oregano, since most of her oregano is Mediterranean. And if you have all three, if you have Italian or Mediterranean oregano, sometimes it's Greek oregano, sometimes it's Italian oregano, sometimes it just says oregano. If it just says oregano, it's not Mexican oregano. That's our special love. I just ordered a pound of it, like what people keep in stores. Because I just love it. And whenever I'm cooking Mexican or Tex-Mex, it really adds a special flavor. However, if you have trouble finding it, it's much easier to find marjoram. And marjoram is delightful in soups and stews. Just delightful. So I'm glad that you like it too. And that's a great point, Joanne. And I think that's actually the brand I have. No, I have, yes I do. I have all the jalapeno powder. So that's the brand I have that I bought at the store. And that's what Joanne is talking about. And it's true. So a lot of these things you can just find at your local Walmart. It's kind of amazing, actually. Oh, I'm seeing talk about chili rellenos in here. And you could totally use aquafaba as the egg batter to make the egg batter. The batter is totally doable. What's hard is then doing it in the air fryer or oven instead of frying it, because what can happen if your batter isn't thick enough, it will fall off. But we'll figure that out. When I did it, I did a potato stuffed poblano in the slow cooker. So it didn't have any coating at all, but it was really delicious. And let's see what else we've got. Okay. So let's go ahead and make our rojo sauce. Okay, good question. Diana says, is the jalapeno powder really spicy? And it depends. It's definitely, like, ancho chili can get medium spicy sometimes, but usually the guajillo and the ancho are mild. New Mexican chilies are pretty mild too, and that's what we're going to use to make our rojo sauce. Jalapenos, I love the flavor, so if you really can't take heat, and sometimes my stomach can't always take it as much, if you can grow some mild jalapenos, you can buy them like even at Lowe's and Home Depot, the plants, and then you could make those. When you go to the store, sometimes they're spicier than others, and what happens is it depends on how stressed they were while they were growing. So that's one of the things that makes it kind of hard. Now, you'll know if you get some and you grind it up if it was spicier than last time or not, and you can use less. I'm trying to remember, I think my powder may be spicier than this one. So try this one and see, but you can start out by putting a pinch at a time in, or 1/8 of a teaspoon in, like half of a quarter teaspoon. You don't need a proper eighth teaspoon measure to do any of that. Okay, and actually I'm going to use that blender. We'll figure this out. Okay. So I know I didn't answer your question exactly. That seems to be the theme of the week, is I can't answer anybody's question. So these are dried chilies, just like the ancho or the guajillo that we used in our beans. And you can usually find all three of those very easily at Walmart or other places. That's the Breville going, hello, I'm up to temperature now. And now it will start counting its 5 minutes down. And what you'll notice on the Breville is it gets condensation. And you might notice some steam coming out. Nothing's on fire, but that's just the way the Breville works. And if you were making this in your air fryer, you could take one of those parchment papers with the holes in it that I've shown you before, and I'll put this in our board because I keep making us an Amazon board for all our classes. I'll put that up on the board, and then the cleanup will be easier because this is probably going to be slightly messy. But hey, it's class day, right? Let's see if anybody else has questions. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to reconstitute these. So what that means is these are all, dried chilies have different names than, in general, than the fresh chilies. And so that's always interesting. So what we're doing is we're taking the dry, and reconstituting the dried chili actually makes it taste like the dry chili. It's just pliable and blendable. So it's still not going to taste like the fresh. My cat says hello. My cat says she's not getting enough attention. All right, so I'll show you how we do these. It's really pretty easy. So these are kitchen shears, right? Which means I can lick them, and I hide them from everyone in the house so they don't open mail with them. Okay, so we're going to take about 3 of these. This one's kind of crumbly, so we're going to cut it open, or these may tear open. I think I've had these for a while. And if you're very sensitive, you can totally wear gloves while you do this. We're just going to knock the seeds out. And if you choose not to wear gloves like I do, it's your own fault if you rub your eye. You have to take full responsibility for that, okay? Just like I do, okay? So I'm just going to try and keep it as close-ish to whole as I can. See, look at all those guys in there. Oh, get that out. Okay. So with the anchos, I always have to use my scissors. With the guajilos, it's a 50-50. So sometimes it can make it easier. Sometimes, like now, it's not making it that much easier. So that's why I'm kind of not doing it. And it's okay if these don't open perfectly. We don't care. We're getting ready to blend them into a sauce. So don't get caught up too much on, oh no, everything's horrible, I've ruined it, right? No, that's not what cooking is. Cooking is making dinner and us doing the best we can. And sometimes things turn out magical. And mostly they turn out magical when you stop beating yourself up about not being perfect. I tell you that from experience, I promise you. And you know, I realized when I was making this Tex-Mex food is that I actually haven't been to Austin since I've become gluten-free. So I'm wondering how sad I'm going to be once I can't have the flour tortillas there. Because I've adjusted to a lot of things. Okay. And you know, the world doesn't end if one seed gets in there. So know that too, that this isn't about you having to be perfect. This is about making a great dinner again. Okay, so I've got all those in here. I'm just going to turn this on. See if we can get it to come up to a little bit of a boil. Actually, this guy, I'm going to cut in half. This guy, I'm going to cut in half. That'll just make it go a little bit faster. I'm gonna wash my hands. Ooh, it looks like it's raining outside, you guys. Okay, so reconstituting chilies is truly just as easy. It's like, ta-da, and then the water's gonna get red and flavorful, and we can use that to do other things, and we're actually going to use it to blend the chilies in. So right now I've got my tongs. I'm going to take these fajitas. If you were using your air fryer basket, you could just shake it. I'm mixing them up a little bit. I think it's probably going to need another 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on 10. The ones on top are cooking quicker than the ones on the bottom, and that's what we're expecting. So actually, let's go ahead and we'll do time up to 8. I'll keep this over here. So with the Rojo, we're going to use this blender, the Ninja blender. And we can go ahead and get other things ready. Okay, while this is kind of coming up to temperature. Oh, and Joanne says she would put money on Austin having great gluten-free tortillas. Well, I will take that bet. I'm supposed... Yes, hello, Moxie. Are you okay? Moxie would like more dinner. She would like third breakfast or 15th lunch, however you're counting, right? Do any of you guys have a cat? Do you have a needy older cat? It makes things even more exciting. Okay, so we're going to put some minced garlic in here. So that means I need to get the garlic mincer out. Okay. So I'm just going to, it's supposed to be about a half teaspoon. So I'm just going to do 1 clove. Okay, so just like before, I'm cutting off that little top part. Taking the skin off. Cheryl's coming up to feed the queen. Did you hear her on the video? Kitties know how to get their bidding done. That's all I know. Oh, this has a little bad part, so I'm just going to cut that little bit of bad off. Yeah, the rest is fine. I'm going to use the garlic smusher. So here, I'll do an overhead where you can see both. I mean, you can smell the chili. So I'm going to turn the chilies down a little bit. Just going to let it simmer a minute. That's the Instant Pot going, hello, lady, do you know you have beans that are ready? And I'm like, slow your roll. Instant Pot, can't you see I'm doing other things? And yes, I'm the age that where people talk to themselves. And to inanimate objects, because why not? I think this is going to be the last time we use the garlic press. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in here. I'm going to take a metal spoon and just scrape that off. Okay. All right, so what else are we're going to put in a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. Let me get some more tongs too. The long tongs. Okay. So half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. And this is kind of the recipe that the guy at Torchy's gave me for their rojo sauce. So if you're like, where is she making this stuff up from? That would be where. We're going to do a half teaspoon of cumin. And all we're doing is making a red sauce that we're going to swirl with some guacamole or pea guacamole if you want to. You could totally do that to make us some Torchy's queso. We're going to do a half teaspoon of Mexican oregano, and you couldn't see that at all. Half teaspoon. I need to hold it down further. I'm going to do a heaping. I'm going to do 3/4. And we're going to do about a half teaspoon of salt, or again, you could use that generic salt recipe that I was telling you about, which was 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of ground celery seed, all mixed up together. Okay, we're also going to need a 1/4 cup of the reconstituting liquid. So let me go get a 1/4 cup measure. Do you like all the noises from me grabbing things? Does that seem more exciting than it is? I feel like I'm taking you on an adventure. Okay, now this just came up, but I feel like these are starting to get pretty good. I'm going to actually turn that time down to 4 minutes. I would like the onions to get a little more char on them, but it's up to you. And it's about your patience level. So I'm going to take about a 1/4 cup of this beautiful cooking water. And you can use this cooking water to make tortillas and other things as well. So that's kind of a nice thing to know. Let me get another small bowl for when this is ready. I think that'll work. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. I'm trying to decide if these are, I think these are enough to blend. So we'll find out. So I'm just going to take my tongs, drop those in there. It's okay if a little bit of liquid comes with it. It doesn't need to be completely perfect. And you could save this water, put it in a chili. You could cook some beans in it. You could use it a lot of different ways to flavor things. And that would be a lovely, wonderful thing to do. Let me wipe this down a little bit. All right. And this should be enough liquid. If it's not, we can add some more. That's another reason not to discard it. Hopefully I am not picking the wrong size for the wrong thing. We're going to use the smaller one for the walnut meat. Let's see if it'll blend. I think I'm going to add a little more liquid to it. I want it to be fairly thick. I'll let you see what it looks like right now. It's kind of hard to see it. It's a very dark. But I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more, maybe a couple more tablespoons. And let's see if that's good enough. Oh yeah, the liquid will make a beautiful tortilla for sure, Marilyn. There we go. I should have started this, then tried to do that. Hi, Katie. Do you want to say hi? You want to come say hi? No? And so again, just so you guys are clear, this is not a fire. Because see how I opened it and now it's gone. It's actually the liquid and things like that. That happens a lot in the Breville, so I just want you to know that and not worry about it. But I am going to show you, because I think these guys are pretty done. Oh, they smell so good. This is the little pan of fajitas. And I can kind of, actually grab a bowl to put them in. This bowl will work. And I am going to have to clean these a bit, you know. So that's why if you don't want to have the cleaning, you can either have them faster or no cleanup. So it's totally up to you which way that goes. And so you can make a batch of these, and you can freeze these and heat them up when you want. So you can make a big mess just like me. I'm eating an onion, and it's really delicious. Okay, these are a little more done. They were up near the top. If I'd done them in the oven, I could have probably done them on one really large sheet pan. The more you crowd them together, the longer it is going to be for them to cook. But what we do, good Lord, I'm just getting crazy over in here. You see that stuff flying everywhere? Get it back in the bowl. Now look at that. You know I'm going to eat this. Mmm. Okay. You guys gotta make these. Mmm. So what's happened is from it being baked like that, and this counter's clean. So that's why I'm just putting the extra spices and goodies in there. Mmm. So you could put this on a salad. Definitely the jalapeno powder I put in there gave it a bite. So I'm going to put it down as optional, and that you can leave it out if you don't want it to be spicy. And I'm going to let this go for the rest of it. Now let's take a look at the rojo sauce. And so I kind of want mine thick. You could make this thinner. It smells really good. So what you would want to do is you'd want to taste it right now and then decide, do you want any of the other things added up? So I'm just going to put a little bit on my tongue, right? So it's got the salt, it's got this darker flavor, a little bit, just a little bit of a smoky flavor, not very much. You can taste a little bit of the oregano. It makes a really neat tasting sauce. So let's put that in a little jar. So we're going to save that for a few minutes. And Joanne says she would definitely save this cooking liquid and cook black beans in it. You could also cook rice in it too. You could really use that for anything you wanted. Okay. Oh, look, most of it was nice and came right out. I wanted to use the big blender because I'm going to use the little one for our walnut taco meat in just a minute. So again, for what I want this thick. If you wanted it thinner, you just add a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup. I don't think a 1/2 cup might be too much, but it depends on what you want to use it for. But it gives a really big flavor punch. So you could use this as a salsa, just like a regular salsa for your air fried corn tortilla chips, for our fajitas. You could, in fact, if you had some of this in your freezer, you could just put it with some soy curls and make that. Or actually, what I like to do is make summer squash tacos, like zucchini or summer squash, which may seem odd since I just said I don't like them on fajitas. And the reason I don't like them on fajitas is that I feel like restaurants often cook them too much or don't cut them big enough. And I don't like that mouthfeel. However, if I cut up a zucchini or a summer squash, I typically just lightly cook it either in some chili spices, some cumin, garlic, onion powder. I typically do it for a quick dinner, so I rarely saute onions and garlic and prepare for it. You could even just cut them up, toss them in some spice blend with like cumin, Mexican oregano, onion powder, garlic powder. If you wanted to use chili for the stew powder, or you could use some ground chili powders like ancho, jalapeno. You could stick that in your air fryer for about 5 to 10 minutes and put that in a taco shell. Anything pretty much can be a taco. But see how nice and thick that is? It's a delicious, delicious sauce, and it's not unusual all over the country, but it's certainly unusual here in North Carolina. So that if I was making it for a dinner for friends or something like that, it would have like the ooh, ah factor, right? Okay. So I want to dry this off pretty well because I think we're going to just go ahead and go into making our taco meat. Then we still have a salsa and a queso to do as well. And we have to finish up our beans. Maybe we should finish up our beans first. Okay. I want to show you everything. So I'm trying to think, where am I going to put it all? All right. So you can either release the pressure on these manually or let them sit. We've kind of mostly let them sit. I can let you see that in case. Oh, and Joanne also says she has a big Maine Coon cat. Oh, I had a Maine Coon. He was lovely. And Jackie says she would probably be lazy and use the same blender cup for the taco meat. Jackie, I like the way you're thinking. And I'm going to go with that. Thank you for voting less dishes for Kathy or Cheryl. So I'm just going to get this pressure out. And then we're going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do is make sure the beans are cooked all the way. The second thing we might do is if there's too much water, we might cook the beans a little bit extra. So there's a little decisions. A million tiny decisions need to be made, as in everything we do in life. And this is, yeah, so this is going to be a fun, fun meal. I guess I could go ahead and get out the blender. The immersion blender is what I'm going to use. I typically use the immersion blender when I put chilies in there because they need the extra help blending sometimes. You could also just mash them with a potato masher. Oh, that would be wrong. This would be right. Okay. Sit this over here for a second. I'll let you guys see what we got here. So you can, in a minute, you'll see how all those cooked chilies are in there. See how they're reconstituted? Just like the things we were talking about just a few minutes ago when we were making our rojo sauce. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take, these should be really cooked. The ones on the top are most likely to not be cooked enough. I don't care if these are overcooked. And look, and they are. That's awesome. All I want to make sure is they smash. When I'm doing refried beans, I honestly do not care if they overcook because I'm going to make a puree out of them. So it's perfectly fine. There we go. There we go. All right, so I am going to add a little bit of salt. It'd be salt to taste. Right now is when we could add green chilies. We could add some lime juice. And you're going to do all that to taste. But I'm going to blend everything up first. I want to especially get... And here's the thing, you can leave this with some lumps or you can keep going. You just want to make sure the chilies are good. See how it changes the color when the chilies really get nice and mushed up? And these are a little bit thin. So I'm probably going to cook them a little bit longer, and I'll show you how we can do that. But see, that beautiful color is from, it's lighter from the onions, it's darker from the chilies. Marilyn says they look amazing. And Jackie said she might need to go out for Mexican food tonight. Jackie, you need to make Mexican food tonight. Okay, so that's whirled up enough for me. I'm going to rinse this because we use your immersion blender. If there's some little pieces, see how there's a couple of pieces of chili in there? That's fine. And here's another thing that I didn't do. I should taste them right now. So I'm just going to get some off of here that I was going to rinse down. So they are dark. They're really nice dark beans. So you can really taste the chili powder, the garlic in there. If you wanted to brighten it up, you could brighten it up with a little bit of lime. I'm thinking the way I want to do things is I want to put lime on the side so that if I'm using these beans with fajitas or something, I just don't want to unbalance it. But it's really totally up to you. Okay, and I know I put an avocado somewheres, but we're not using the avocado now. So if I wanted to keep having this, like, go ahead, see it's on low and you can see the steam. Can you see a little bit of the steam coming out? That's how the water's going to go down in there. These beans are going to thicken up as they cool. So that's something else to know too. So it depends on what you want. Do you like your beans thinner? Do you like them super thick? Are you going to put them in on a tortilla and try and put them in the air fryer? Thick is better, right? So there's going to be some of these things to think about. Oops, I think I hit the I hit the kettle instead. So I'll show you here. So again, they're thinner. So all I have to do is just either keep them on warm if I'm doing this for the long haul, or I could cover it, and depending on your Instant Pot, it may or may not let you put the regular cover on it. Let me show you the cover I like to use. And then I'll put that in our board too. Okay. So I have this thing to put on top so things don't boil over. Because when I put this to saute, I'm going to press cancel, saute, and I'm going to put it on low saute. Because here's the thing that's hard about that, is then it goes pa-dum, 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 and so it's like hot refried pinto bean shots at you, and it burns and it hurts. I can assure you of that. So we can leave this on and just, okay. And then we'll just leave it like that, and then nothing will splatter out. If you have a pot lid, That's another good thing to put on top. If you want, you can put your Instant Pot lid on top, but then it's hard to look, and when you take it off, you might get splattered. So that's why I like this best. So we're gonna see about, let these thicken up a little bit. Okay, taco meat. Let's see. Jackie said she'd need to go grocery shopping first. I wish, see, this is when I wish you guys were all here and that we were at a beautiful rental house. We were having like a whole weekend of cooking together, because then we could cook, eat, and then cook some more, which is awesome. And Marilyn says she'd like to as well. Okay, so let me get back to my notes. We're gonna make our taco meat. I'm gonna put about a cup of walnuts. And so one of the things too that I was saying, and Marilyn has several sizes of these no boil overs. They're really nice. Like, I cannot boil pasta without having it go everywhere. It is not my superpower. Can I smell some spices? Yes, I can. So we're just going to put this 1 cup of walnuts, and I have walnut pieces because they're cheaper. So I would encourage you, we're just going to pulse it enough so that it looks like meat. We want to make sure it does not turn into walnut butter, right? Because that would be really, that would be a thing too far. Let me see, I think we can put it on here. Okay, so some of the spices I want to use is I want to use some cumin, and for this amount, and I'm making a small amount because literally you might put 2 tablespoons in a taco, so this is more servings than you think it is. It's wonderful on top of taco salads and things like that. And in fact, we could even put, you know, a little bit of our rojo sauce. It's going to get a little bit, but we could put a tablespoon of that in there too. You can really do whatever you want. So we're going to put, I have spices everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and do 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, because that's typically what's in taco meat. But I also personally get a little tired of everything just tasting like cumin. So we're going to work on that. We're going to fix that. So I'm going to put in some ancho chili powder because I want this to be beefy. So I want it to be dark, right? Like our ancho. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put 1/2 teaspoon of ancho chili powder in there. Start with that. I'm going to go ahead and put some mushroom powder in. If you don't have mushroom powder, that's fine. How I made my mushroom powder can be expensive. I literally took the big stems off my shiitake mushrooms, dehydrated them, and ground them. And this is probably why you guys are asking for a dehydrator class, because I think more and more. So I'm just going to put like 1/4 teaspoon. And that's telling me it's hot. Okay, so I'm putting in 1/4 teaspoon of mushroom powder. I'm going to go ahead and put in 1/2 teaspoon of granulated garlic because I want it to be kind of garlicky. You could use regular garlic. I'm just being lazy. I'm going to use 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. And I guess it's more exciting to watch these go in. There we go. Okay. 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. I'm going to use some smoked paprika. I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon. And that's 1/4 teaspoon, so that's why I'm putting it in twice. And I'm going to go ahead and add something else optional. I'm going to call the mushroom powder optional, and I'm going to call this optional. This is tomato powder. You could also just put in a sun-dried tomato. So I'm going to put in, to start with, 1/4 teaspoon of tomato powder. And you could do salt or salt substitute. I am going to start with a 1/4 teaspoon. Oh, thanks, Anne. I'm glad you like the mushroom powder. Here's the thing. Anything you can slice thin and dehydrate, pretty much so far that I've tried, you can powder. And it is nice to have these things powdered and just ready for you. So now we're going to smell it. Trying to say, I feel like it needs something else too. I have some dried cilantro as well as some fresh cilantro that we're going to use in some other things. Yeah, let's put 1/2 teaspoon dried cilantro. I think that gave it the boost that it needed. And guess how I made my dried cilantro? I had some fresh that was looking wilty. It's better if you do it when it's really fresh. I dehydrated it and ground it up in a spice grinder, as I am likely to do. Okay. Alrighty. Let me take a look at what's going on. Because we can have some chunks in there. I'll let you see what I'm seeing. We can have some chunks in there, but the most important thing is that this does not turn into walnut butter. So there's a couple of pieces in there. I think I want to pulse it 1 or 2 more times. And you know what I think I'm going to do? Because I do like the way this rojo sauce in there is kind of awesome. As I'm scraping down the sides to mix it in a little bit. So I think I'm going to put just a tiny bit. So I call that 1/2 to a teaspoon of rojo sauce, and that will also be optional in the everyday recipe, meaning that if rojo sauce wasn't right in front of me, perhaps I wouldn't put it in there. And I'm just pulsing. Get over here. The Ninja always gunks up a little bit, but I think that's going to be good. Okay. I'm tasting the piece that ran down my arm. I'm going to get all this off. Let's get it in here. And if you didn't have rojo sauce, you could add some salsa verde. You could add something else if you wanted to. In the beginning, I kind of wanted to make this mostly spices, slightly plainer, so that we could use it with other sauces and things on it. With that said, I am scraping every last bit of the rojo sauce because I really like it on this. Ooh. That also means that this is going to be a little bit of a wetter mixture. So it's better that we go ahead and eat it sooner because it could mold, right? So we're going to have to store it in the fridge or the freezer. I'm going to mix that stuff in there. I'm going to get this extra stuff that came out. I'm going to get a little fork. And just kind of break that up in. And if you don't want your pieces that big, you can keep going. And you could do a larger batch and use your Vitamix. This is probably going to be a little hard in the Vitamix because it is a small amount. But you could also make 2, 3, 4 times the amount of this. And you could, again, store it in the freezer, pull it out, you know, earlier in the day, and then you could put it on salads. You could put it in burritos, tacos. I'm just trying to mix some of that good rojo in there so it's every piece tastes a little closer to the same, instead of like, look, this piece tastes like walnut. This piece tastes like really yummy goodness, right? So that's all I'm doing now. Okay, so I have some on my, That's really pretty good. It's very nice. Trying to think, would I adjust anything? I'm not sure that I would adjust anything. I like it just the way it is. You could add different things in there for sure. But I think it makes like a nice base. We could add a little more mushroom powder or tomato powder if we wanted to. So maybe I'll put a range on that, or can add more tomato or mushroom powder, maybe to taste. I thought I heard a blip, but I don't see a comment. So that's our taco meat. It's super easy. So let's check on our beans real quick. So that you can kind of see what I've been doing with that. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. No. There's my bean stirrer. No, there's my bean stirrer. Okay, and I'll let you see. So see how it gets lava-ish? And so at the bottom, it's going to be way thicker. So you're still going to want to stir up from the bottom. And see, now it's probably 1 or 2 degrees thicker than it was. As it cools, these will still get thicker still. And I think that was enough time. Because remember, right now, even though I just turned this Instant Pot off, this is hot, right? Because it's hot, it's going to keep cooking. It's going to still release some of that steam. So I'm going to have to stir it up from the bottom before I put it away too. So if you like your beans super thick, you could always use less water. But sometimes it just depends. It depends on how much water did the peppers soak up. How much, you know, so there's a little bit of whatever's going on. So I'm just going to throw this lid on here. Oop. Throw it on and set these over to the side. So what we're going to do next, we've got 2 things to make. Let's make our salsa and go ahead and use, we'll make the cheese last because that's going to be my lunch. Okay, so I wanted to do just a super easy, just red salsa, because sometimes you might want to just make a quick taco and maybe you don't have a salsa, or maybe you've run out. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few different things. I'm going to use petite diced tomatoes. I'm going to use a can of green chilies. You could also use chipotle and adobo sauce. Let me let you see that a little bit closer. Right? So I'm going to use 2 cans, diced tomatoes, some green chilies. You could also put jalapenos in there, or habaneros, or serrano. You could do a lot of things. It's really completely up to you. Okay? And you could put onion in here. You could put garlic in here. You could put roasted garlic. So think of this just as a base of a quick and easy salsa. And when you're doing cilantro, you can use these stems. You just might want to get this, if you have some big stems, these were really stemmy. You might want to just get those in first, but the stems have a lot of flavor. So I'm going to open these cans. You could have a big can. You could use fresh tomatoes in the summer and cut them up, absolutely. These are like a little bit cooked, so this is a little more of kind of that cooked Tex-Mex salsa instead of a Mexican salsa fresca type sauce. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing it. And depending on how thick you want it, you can drain the tomatoes or not. Cheryl likes hers kind of thin, so I'm going to put everything in. And this recipe was actually in the Great Vegan Bean book, because I really and I also do something similar. I get a big can of crushed tomatoes, add Italian spices. Ta-da! Pasta sauce, right? We all need to have stuff we can make up really quick in the pantry for Jackie today, when she doesn't have the stuff she needs to make what she wants. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add this whole can of green chilies. And this is just like a basic. You could also use diced tomatoes that have roasted garlic and onion in them. You could use like the diced tomatoes with green chilies. You can in fact drain this, puree this, and make a small salsa for one. It's all about what you have in your fridge right now. And if you don't like as much green chilies, you could just do half. So let's try half first. I think we'll probably put the rest in. We could go ahead, since we didn't put any onion or garlic, let's go ahead and put some garlic powder in there. I'm going to put half a teaspoon. If you like fresh garlic, you could go ahead and put fresh garlic cloves in there too. You could put fresh onion in here and zoom it up as well. Okay. Let me see what that kind of looks like. Right? I'm going to give her a little taste. It tastes nice and fresh. I think it does need more chilies. I'm not shocked, but if you're not sure if they're enough for you, I shouldn't be shocked because it was my recipe, right? That should mean that, of course, it's what I thought I should have. We could go ahead and put in, let's go ahead and put in some of the cilantro. We could also put in one of those lime packets or put in some lime. Okay. Doesn't take long. All that looks pretty good. I love cilantro. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. Okay. And from here, you could even do things like you could put cumin, you could put Mexican oregano. But it's just like one of those nice, light, generic, run-of-the-mill Mexican restaurant sauces that aren't like authentic Mexican. And I always think of those as being Tex-Mex, but I could be wrong about that. I'm trying to think of what else I'd like to go in there. I think I would like some of that lime powder. I can remember where, or here, actually, let's put some lime juice because we're going to use some lime, half of this lime to make some guacamole in a minute. Just cut this open. I'll do this over here. I'm also going to hit it on the counter and roll it. Hit it and roll it. That breaks up those little juice packets inside the lime. And it's going to make more juice come out, which will make us happy. Another thing we can do too, I've got a little zester. I'm going to put just a little bit of lime zest in there. That's going to make it taste really fresh. And you could zest this whole lime right now, even though you're not going to use the zest, and put it in the freezer for another time. I'm just cutting this guy in half. Okay. Squeeze in about half a lime. And it's up to your taste and that lime and the tomatoes you're using that will decide if you want more or not. Okay. And I'm not really pureeing it because I don't want it to be just a paste. I want it to be more, you know, like that. Take another taste. Not overly limey, but it definitely gives that. It's a very mild salsa at this point. If you wanted to amp it up, put in some fresh jalapeno, put in some habanero, put in one of those chipotles from the adobo sauce. You could put some jalapeno powder in there. You could put some cayenne powder in there. But I'm going for super mild because I live with Cheryl. I'm also leaving out the fresh onions that would go in here because I live with Cheryl. You don't live with Cheryl, so you can make it the way you like it. But let me make sure I make my my notes. Here we go. I did half a lime. I did with zest. Yeah, I think that's about all I added. I added some half a teaspoon of garlic powder. I think I could use some more garlic powder, so I'm going to do another half teaspoon of garlic powder. Because there's more in here than you think. This is probably 6 cups of salsa. Cheryl really enjoys putting salsa on stuff if it's mild enough for her. And so I think she's really going to enjoy it. So this is a lot of salsa. What if I don't eat it this weekend? I can freeze it. I could freeze it tonight, pull it out, and then right before taco night next week or in a month or two. Awesome. Now let's give her a taste. That did it for me. That made it all better. So let me put some salsa. I love my little salsa pig, so we'll put some of the salsa in there. Do you guys have any questions? You've been very quiet for a while. You're making me very nervous that I'm not somehow seeing your questions. Let me show you from here. See, to me, this looks like the sauce I remember getting like at Chi-Chi's. So again, not super authentic kind of sauce, but it's still lovely. So I remember this fondly from my margarita days. All right, so what we've got right now, so we've got those beans, got some taco meat, got our rojo sauce, we've got our fajitas, right? And refried beans. But we still have one more thing to do. One more amazing, well, actually we have two things. I'm lying to you. We're going to make guacamole to go with the loaded, because we're doing a loaded queso, but we're going to make this oat queso that I've been loving. So I've been making a lot of this oat queso. But first, let me make a quick guacamole. And I'm not going to put, unless you guys want it, I'm not really going to put the guacamole recipe in there because I'm just going to show you how I make it all the time, which is not really a recipe. However, I need my little avocado. There's my avocado masher. It's super easy to make. I don't use a lot of ingredients. I use some lime juice. You could put all kinds of things in your guacamole. And in fact, sometimes I'll put salsa verde in my guacamole because I think it is so delicious. Now, I have to find my avocado. There's my avocado. It's hiding from me. I have this great avocado tool. There we go. You don't need this. It's nice to have. I will say that. But you don't need it. I will put it in our notes. Oh, great. Diane says, were the walnuts toasted prior to the pulsing? You know, I didn't today, but that would probably be a great idea. So I will put that in mind too, to toast them lightly. I think that's a better idea. I'm probably going to end up heating it up. So I'll probably heat it up in a pan and that will toast it. That's why I didn't toast it first. But if you were making it for eating right now, toasting would be great. And the other thing we didn't talk about, so thank you for bringing that up, is if you have cauliflower rice, you could put all those same seasonings and a little rojo sauce in there and just heat it up in a pan. And then you would have a nut-free option. You could also do the same thing, like when my sliced mushrooms, I will just pulse them in a small blender and they'll get that small. I would saute that with the spices. So those are your two nut-free options. So thank you for reminding me. And I'm glad you guys are still there. You made me nervous for a minute. Okay, so I have my little avocado, literally my California avocado masher. I don't know if you guys can see that. So this should be close to ripe. It may be ever so slightly underripe. So I'm just going to cut it in the middle. Like I said, you could not use, ooh. I'm sorry, but I'm so impressed with this. Look how beautiful that is. If you can't eat avocados for whatever reason, you could use thawed frozen peas, and you would probably need to do it in a blender instead of just mashing it, but it's totally doable. So okay. This little guy takes out the pit. And this little guy just cuts it up a little bit for you. So you'd have slices. Yeah. This may be the best avocado I've had in a long time. Yay for the good avocados. Okay, great. I will put the recipe. So I'll actually try and write it down. I don't know that I've ever written it down. So let me just do that here. So I'm going to put guac, 1 avocado, mashed, And there's a whole bunch of ways you can make this. And like I said, one of the ways is I will actually just mash this up and put salsa verde. So that's one of my variations. And it doesn't need anything else because it gets the kind of tangy, it gets its salty flavors, everything from that salsa verde. So I keep jars of that and I make it myself at home. If you want the recipe for my air fryer salsa verde, it is on healthyslowcooking.com, or you can get it off of my YouTube channel. Just search for Kathy Hester. So if your avocado is not perfectly ripe, like this one just happened to magically be, you may need to mash harder or less. Okay. So I'm going to put the juice of half a lime in there. And actually, I'm going to get my citrus reamer to make sure we get every last bit out. There we go. So I'm even going to take this one we used for something else, and I'm just going to go in there and get all that extra. Can you guys kind of see where it's shiny? And you could use a spoon for this. You don't have to have a fancy wooden citrus reamer. So, and again, if you're going to make this with peas, this would probably be about a cup and a half of green peas from the freezer, thawed, and you could puree them in like a small blender, like the Ninja blender, like we did the walnut meat for. Wipe my hand off. Oh, have fun, Jackie. It's nice to see you as always. Okay, so we're just going to mix that up in there a little bit. I want to make sure that it's not too thin. And that's how I gauge how much, if I'm adding a salsa verde or something in there, I don't want it to be too thin. I want this to be luscious. Okay. All right, so then I usually add some granulated garlic. So I'm going to add about let's start with a 1/4 teaspoon. You could start even with an 1/8. We'll start with an 1/8. I'm going back to a 1/4. And it's up to you. I also have some toasted garlic powder that I don't have out right now. And that is what I often use, and it gives it a little extra flavor. Another thing I like to add in often is some jalapeno powder. And so you could just put literally a little pinch or two, because you don't want it to be too spicy, but it gives a little bit of that mid-level greener flavor into this, because right now we just have lime juice, which is like high flavor profile. The avocado is kind of medium. Sometimes I'll even add some ancho chili powder to it. I'm going to smell it. And let's taste it real quick. And you can add salt or salt substitute. Nice bite from the lime. I don't think I'm going to add ancho this time, but I think I'm going to add a second pinch of the jalapeno powder. So I'm probably using a 1/16 of a tablespoon-ish. So I'm going to say 2 pinches jalapeno powder, or you could try ancho or use salsa verde. And we don't eat a lot of avocados, so when we eat them, I like to taste them. So I don't like to have too much stuff in there. I do find the salsa verde really complements it a lot. Great. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. Probably a 1/4 teaspoon. And again, if you don't use salt, this would be a great time to use that onion powder, garlic powder, celery seed salt. Or if you have a Mexican salt-free blend, you could try that in here too, and that would be really good. Yep, that's the ticket. And Joanne says she loves my avocado masher. And it's nice. It's just an OXO avocado masher. You can get them at Target. I'll put them on our board. And toasted is the same. And let me see if I'm just saying the wrong word. You're right. Roasted, not toasted. So I do have roasted garlic powder. And sometimes I add that for a depth of flavor. I don't use it as often, but let's say that, you know how sometimes you can get an avocado, it's a little old and it just doesn't taste like much? You don't, like this, we get to taste the avocado, which is amazing. If it was just kind of bland, then I'd throw in the roasted garlic. Thanks, Joanne, for that. And thanks for saying my guac is really pretty. So now, we only have one more thing to make. We've made refried beans, taco walnut meat, rojo sauce, guacamole, quick salsa, fajitas, and now we're going to make our cheese sauce. And I need something to put our cheese sauce in. Don't you love it when you forget to think far enough ahead? Here, we'll put it in, I think we'll put part of it in here and we'll make up our fancy stuff. Okay, so let me get this blender out of here. And I'm probably going to put some more cilantro on the top. And see how stemmy this is? So there's a couple of things you can do with those stems. One, you can blend them up in foods, as we have been doing it today. Another thing is that I'm a short person. I'll often blend them up with some water and put them in ice cube trays. Then you can throw them in chilies and stews and things like that. So, because cilantro can be a little bit unpredictable about when it decides to die. Maybe not for you, but it does for me. Okay, this one I do need to, this is a recipe I've been making for a while now, but I still need to double check. There we go. Okay, I need 2 cups of water, which I know I had here. So we're going to put 2 cups of water in the blender. This sauce is stupid easy. Let me tell you that right now. And I need, how did I use up all the things that I put over here? Do you guys ever do that? You pull out things, you're like, who used all that? Who is that messy? Probably not. I bet at Joanne's house that does not happen. Then we're going to use our magic ingredient that is not cauliflower, because cauliflower is magic, but so is rolled oats. Rolled oat magic. That's what we're going for today. We're going to put 1 cup of rolled oats in here. And you could do things like, we're not adding anything like carrots or things like that. We're just making a white queso sauce. So you could get as fancy or as least fancy with this as you choose. Come on over here. All right. Okay, so now we're going to do half a teaspoon of organic cornstarch. And this is what's going to thicken it. If you don't have organic cornstarch, you're worried about using cornstarch or you can't, you should be able to use arrowroot powder as well. But this is an important ingredient. Without this, your sauce is not going to get thick. and it will make you unhappy. So we're going to do half a teaspoon of garlic powder or granulated garlic. I use them interchangeably. We're going to do half a teaspoon of salt, or you can use your salt substitute. And I've just been using pink Himalayan salt because that's what I have. Kosher salt would be fine. If you're using a really fine grind of table salt, you'll probably use less. But that's why we also talk about doing it to taste. Okay, we're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. We are going to do, we have this great vegan lactic acid, right? Oh, I love that. Joanne says she looks for things way too much. She spends way too much time looking for things in her overstuffed pantry. You guys did hear the pan fall out of my pantry when I went to get the lid, right? Yeah, I think you did. I think you did. I feel like this has somehow gotten closer than I want it to be. Let me check something really quick. Nope, it's okay. Set that in there. Okay, so lactic acid, it's vegan. This is optional, but it's going to give it, it's just this powder. And we're going to use a 1/4 teaspoon. It's not super cheap. I think it's about $15 or $16, but I've had this for a long time. It lasts a long time, and it goes a long way. I'm also going to then put some jalapeno powder, because to me, that gives it that edge of the queso. So like half of a 1/4 teaspoon is what we're looking at. And then I'm going to do just a pinch of dried mustard. And you could choose to do that or not. You could also choose to do just the tiniest. It just gives it a little more bite. Okay. And you could use like some mustard for the hot dog kind of mustard too. And that would be fine. And Joanne says she loves rolled oat magic. Yeah, I've been buying gluten-free oats in giant things too. That little jar that I was showing you, this guy I filled up like 6 times this month. It's like, I've just been going through it. Okay, so you're like, that is not nacho cheese, Kathy. That is not queso in any way, shape, or form. So here's the painful part, is it's gonna blend, and I want you to hear it because it changes ever so slightly. So, and it's gonna thicken up at that point. So we're using our Vitamix. If you don't have a powerful blender, like a Vitamix, Blendtec, I haven't tried it in the NutriBullet or the Ninja to see if it works, but it has to get fast enough to get hot. If you don't have that, blend it, then put it in a saucepan and just cook it with a whisk until it starts looking a little bit shiny and gets thick. So you have an option. And this is going to be loud. So I'm going to start it off low. I just want to make sure to blend those oats really good. But 1 to 2 minutes. I feel like I should do a dance or something to entertain you. But You're going to hear it's one level, one tone, and it changes tones when it starts to get warm. You can also take your hand. Not warm. So it's not ready yet, but what I wanted to say, and you can see it in the back, you can't see it there, you'll start to see there's this little part that starts to look different. But here, I'll let you see where it is right now. It's not ready yet, right? See, it's getting warm. You can see the steam come out, but it's not thick enough yet. Did you guys hear that? That's the important part. And if you're listening to this in the replay, go back and listen to like the last 15 seconds. And this may not be all the way perfect, but all of a sudden it starts to struggle. That's when you know it's starting to get thicker. So that's what's super helpful. So let's see if this is, oh yeah. Okay, very different. You're like, that's not different, Kathy. Allow me. Look at that. And I'll let you see it from the front too. It's amazing. It's super thick, super stringy. We talked the last time I made a cheese sauce about maybe putting tapioca starch in there, but I found for this queso sauce, it doesn't need it. It still kind of strings. As it cools down, it's not as stringy. So I would say it's best eaten warm. You could warm it up again. You might have to add some extra liquid. But here, we're going to make up some torchy's queso. So I'm going to put some of the cheese sauce in the bowl. And actually, maybe you should be seeing this from overhead. So you can see exactly what we're looking at. Isn't it amazing? Hello, 90% oats. That's a cheese. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put something in here. I forgot to put the nooch. How's it taste? Ooh, it tastes delicious even without the nooch. I'm going to roll with it. However, the recipe does have some nutritional yeast. It has a half a cup of well, you know what? Let me show you what it really looks like. with the nutrition. It tastes good, but here's the thing, is I've been making a bunch of different cheese sauces with this. It's not going to love doing the cheese, can't believe I left that out, you guys. Okay, we want half a cup, just 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Let's see if we can't just get it to gently mix. Please, please help me with my mistake. Mostly. I'm just going to mix a little bit of it in by hand that's at the top. I could even at this point add a little bit of extra water. We could water it down a little bit. So let's do that. It's probably good just so you can see that if you heard it too late, I'm just going to put not much water in here at all, like a quarter, and I'm going to just stir it a little bit to make sure that that water is getting to the blades, because now we've got this thick mixture in there. And let's just thin it out a little bit. You could always warm it back up like this if it was cold from the fridge. You're going to have to add a lot of water though. Yeah, that was the right thing to do. And I'll show you why. Here we go. So the color is a little bit different. It's good both ways. I gotta tell you, I wasn't sad without the nutritional yeast either. So if you can't have nutritional yeast, this would be a great cheese recipe for you to try. Just try it without the nutritional yeast. I'll put a note about that because I know some of you guys can't have it. So I know I've kind of dirtied up my bowl. So like we get this queso in here. This is how it's loaded. Then we're going to put a dollop of our avocado guacamole or our pea guacamole, depending on what your diet allows. And see, when it's just for me, honestly, I spread it out more, but this is a little more how it's served there. And then you get some rojo sauce. Yeah, the white color was better in the other one, I gotta say, but this is going to be closer. So we can put some little dots and swirls around. And again, we can make this a little more liquid if we wanted to. I kind of like having it like that. And I'm going to take a spoon. We're just going to drag it through a little bit so it looks a little more interesting. And I also like having that in there. So good together. And then we're just going to take, oh guys, focus in. There we go. I'm going to tear a few cilantro leaves. You could have some cut up cilantro. I'm just going to tear some up. Because for photos, it's kind of nice when they have the bigger pieces. There you go. The vegan queso you've always wanted to have out at a restaurant. So let's get all this stuff here and I'll show you see if I can get everything in an overhead shot. And so there's something about the really pretty food that's nice. Okay. There's also something about me that's spice hoarder over on this side, which is making things difficult for me. All right. And we can look at these beans. What do you guys think I'm eating after we get off class? Let's see it all from up here. So, and see how the beans are thickening up as they cool still? And I love making a big pot of refried beans because taco night is always easier. So we've got soy curl. These could be mushroom fajitas, right? We've got a quick restaurant style salsa, some taco meat that's walnut meat, but we can make that with cauliflower rice instead to make it nut free. We've got the rojo sauce, right? And that was mostly for decorating our fancy Torchy's cheese sauce, which is an oat cheese sauce. And again, just so you guys can see, you know, this is the cheese sauce. I mean, it's really nice. It's got a really nice stretch to it, and it's super easy to make. So I will tell you this. And Colleen was, let's see. Colleen was saying, what do you do if you don't have a Vitamix? If you don't have a powerful blender, what you do is still blend it up in your blender until it's perfectly smooth. Whatever blender you have. Then I would just go ahead and put it in a pot over probably medium heat on your stove and use a whisk. I would whisk continuously. You will know it's ready because it will start to look a little glossy, and it will also start to thicken up. It'll be really obvious. And don't forget, both in the Vitamix, I forget this in the Vitamix almost every time, but on the Vitamix or the other thing, if it gets too thick, you might have to add some more water and come back, right? So it's like if you can catch it at that perfect moment, it's still, the blender's still warm. The pot is still warm on the stove, so it's going to continue to thicken up. So you want to take it off the heat or stop blending it right before it's as thick as you want it. However, if you are like me and you don't quite get that little second, it's like the amount of a time an avocado is ripe, then you can always add some more water and blend again. If you're adding water in your blender, make sure, because the mixture's thick, that you scrape around with a spatula so the water can get to the blades. If not, it's just going to be on the top and it's going to go, I can't do anything. If you're doing that on your pot, you're going to have to whisk very slowly, kind of like in a motion, like an elliptical motion to mix that water into it so it doesn't just splash right out. So hopefully that helps. Do you guys have any questions? Because this is a pretty awesome dinner. Here, I'll make it where you can see it here. And I was super jealous when I was in Austin and my friend got Torchy's queso because it's like, hey, it's melty cheese. Love melty cheese. Vegan melty cheese. But you see melty cheese and you're like, I want that. And this is the first I have a cauliflower queso that has cauliflower and cashews that you can make as well. And that's on plantbasedinstantpot.com if you want to get that recipe. But this is the cheapest, easiest way to make ooey gooey vegan cheese. So I've made, this is the one I'm making as a queso. So I put a few, the jalapeno powder, and a few other things, but you can make a mac and cheese recipe out of that. You can make a Mexi-Mex recipe out of that. You could make, it's the base of the sauce for my scalloped potatoes. We used it in another class, I think the casserole class, to make the sauce for the enchiladas. That's where it all started. So, but I mean, for the amount of time, I mean, let's see, it's been 2.5 hours with me talking and doing a lot of things. So here's how I would do this as meal planning. You can make all this stuff on the weekend. You can freeze some of the fajitas, walnut milk, walnut. Pollen. It's pollen. I'm so sorry, you guys. I literally just inhaled a big piece of pollen. But so if you wanted to make this for ahead, the only thing I wouldn't make ahead is the queso and the guacamole. You can make the beans, or you can make them today and then use what you want today. Freeze the rest. I usually freeze them in a portion size that I would use for one meal. Freeze half the salsa, or freeze it in little dippable containers. If you can dip veggies in it. You can use it with a little bit of like tofu sour cream and make like taco salads with it, with your walnut or cauliflower meat. The rojo sauce can freeze, and then you can use it in, you could put it in enchiladas. You can mix it. Oh, here's what you can do. You can mix that with some plain mashed potatoes and put it in a tortilla. If you haven't, like potatoes with all the stuff is magic. But yeah, so this is like enough for 2 people for a long time. So it really is kind of, and you don't have to have the same thing. I can have a fajita on my salad, or I could have a taco salad with just like some iceberg or the hard parts of the romaine with beans, walnut meat or not, some rojo sauce or salsa, and still pile it up with all the veggies. Oh, that's great. Sheila wants to make it. I love hearing that always. And Joanne, yeah, I love oats. You guys know that. But oats are just amazing because they thicken things up. So I've been using them the past year and a half in recipes that would have cashews in them. Like you could use cashews, but if you can't have nuts for allergies or other reasons, you could try that. And I was like, well, dang, let's make some other stuff with oats. So I have a list of all the things that I've got to choose from for May class, but we may go ahead and do a dehydrator class. It may be in May or June. I'm trying to decide, because we're going to have to do that class differently. It's probably going to have to be part on Saturday, part on Sunday. I could film it ahead too, so I got to work out the logistics. I know a New York deli class has been asked for, but that's going to take more research, so that's probably going to be closer to late summer. Because right now I don't know how to keep the big meat cooked and together, so that's going to take a lot more research. Do you guys have some other classes that you're interested in? If you do, email me at kathyhester@gmail.com. Right now I'm looking at some Mexican, some Tex-Mex. I'm sure I have a list of things. So I'm trying to see if I can kind of get things planned out a little further ahead of time. Oh, and Joanne says she makes her cashew cream half cashews, half oats, which is wonderful. And yeah, oats are just amazing, amazing things. Okay, guys, if you don't have any other questions, I think we're going to be done for today. So if you have any questions about this, I'm going to have the recipes up tonight at some point. If the internet's work with me, sometimes on the weekends our internet gets a little bit slower. We'll have the video up. You can watch the replay on YouTube for a while if you need to do that. I have the recipes up for you, and then I'll be announcing classes next week for May. Ooh. Okay, Marilyn's up for Mexican #2 class. So, okay, awesome. So we'll be working with that. You guys were delightful to hang out with. If you're watching the replay, you have questions, you can leave your questions below in Podia while you're watching, or you can email me directly at kathyhester@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer those. Oh, awesome. Sherry liked the class. Yeah, and it's so easy. And here's the thing too, if your family isn't all on a whole food plant-based diet, this is a lovely thing for them. It's something that's very familiar, right? So it smells, tastes, feels the same way. So they're not going to feel as kind of like, ew, what's that weird tofu stuff you're eating, right? And again, if they don't like the soy curls, you could use mushrooms instead. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Linda. Oh, and Sonia said she was really enjoying, let's see if that can go back here. Awesome. Yeah, creating happy hours on the deck. I'm with you. I'm coming to hang out at your house. And you can make a faux margarita, a macarita, or you can make margaritas. So you could take some lime juice you know, and sparkling water. I actually have a non-alcoholic tequila that I haven't tried yet. So I don't want to tell you if it's good or not because I have no idea. But I thought it would be nice for mocktails. So I'm assuming it's going to give some of that agave flavor. And you are so welcome. And Joanne and Colleen, you guys are awesome. Have a wonderful, amazing rest of your weekend, and I'll probably be seeing you in a couple weeks. Like I said, I'll have May classes up for those of you who are in Kathy's Cooking Club coming up. If you are watching this and you're like, what the heck is Kathy's Cooking Club? Go to kathyhester.podia.com. Also, if you are watching live and you're looking for your recipes, they're not going to be there now, but they will be there soon at kathyhester.podia.com. Log in. Then there's something that says blah, blah, and then something that says products. Click products, scroll down to Tex-Mex class, and then click on there. That's where all these things I say that I'm going to put up are going to be. Okay, awesome. Have an amazing day, you guys, and I'll see you real soon.